Welcome back to the Cisco TechCast, where we talk about embedded systems, real-time software and more topics from the digital world. I'm still with Daniel from our customer support, and today we're diving deeper into PikeOS, what it takes to get started, the tools you'll need and how Cisco supports you throughout the journey. First off, let's talk about tools. As a developer or architect, you have lots of choices out there, but when working with PikeOS, what tools can you absolutely not live without? And I think I already know the answer.
Yeah, I mean, tools, as someone who never seen before PikeOS, I would really recommend to start with Codeo. And this is for me why I would say Codeo, it's really the main tool because you get quickly into it. All is there. All also, as I say, monitoring, debugging, tracing, all tools are inside of Codeo. There's easy interface. There's some dedicated tabs to create, for example, the communication channels to communicate share memories objects, to add some memory segments if needed. So this is really, I would say, a really complete interface for development and can be used by the software architect, but also by the application engineers developing the application. So yeah, I would definitely say the main tool which allows to set up the operating system, PikeOS, but also the environment around with the different personalities and so on. So yeah, definitely Codeo. Yeah, so I didn't speak about Elinos, but of course this is our, I would say, modified Linux distribution that allows you to run any applications, Linux applications encapsulated in this partition. So the Elinos can then be used through the Codeo also, so you can create a partition and have the Elinos to run on it. If you have developed some Linux application, you can basically use them again there. And of course, this is all being done through Codeo. So as I said, it's regrouping not only the PikeOS part with other partitions or other personalities, but also the Linux personality, which brings the Elinos. And of course, this can be all set and managed through Codeo.
Sounds like Codeo is truly the Swiss Army knife for embedded software development. Now, for someone just starting out with PikeOS, training can make or break the experience. What kind of training do you offer and what's your recommendation?
What we need to understand, of course, if you don't know PikeOS, there's some concepts and they're really linked to PikeOS, so it's important to understand them. And for that, of course, we have our PikeOS manual, which is quite a big manual, but this actually covers most of the concepts. And I would say what happens most of the time is when there's a team which will work with the products, usually they get suggested to do a training. So I'm also taking care of the training part. And this is really recommended to get before starting anything to understand how PikeOS works, the concepts behind the tools, the usage of Codeo, the IDE, so to get used to create also for the architect to create the operating system architecture, for the application engineers to see how they can actually write their application code, how they can debug and so on. So yeah, I would really recommend trainings to our customers when they start using our products. So this is, I would say, a must to get really quickly into the understanding of PikeOS and also how to use the tools in the best manner. So you can also learn by doing. What I see sometimes in training is some people, they have been basically learning by doing, and they like also to participate in the training, and at the end they tell me, okay, I already use Codeo or use PikeOS, but there were some pieces of the puzzle that I was not quite aware, and now I'm actually bringing all the pieces together. When you have the opportunity and the chance to already start a project and have a training straight from the beginning, I think this is the best approach. We have different kinds of trainings. We have the core training, which goes for 2 days, covers all those aspects and and doing some exercises. using Codeo. And then we have other parts also related to hardware virtualization, training on the drivers also, and of course some specificities for the different personalities. So this comes also with the core training. But of course, if there's some additional component as POSIX, Linux, which is the LinOS running on top of PikeOS, ARANG, POSIX, so this might bring them additional hours. After a training, there's always a period where I let the customer to have a direct contact with me if there are any questions in regards of the trainings. And after that, it's really important to understand that the contact platform for support is really our customer support portal. And all the team will be there to answer any technical questions. And then after that, of course, you have our documentation on the customer portal. You have also access to FAQs, but also to our application notes. And of course, we have tutorials are also available on the documentation of the products. So you have quite a lot of information, documentation, but I would say training is always good to have at the beginning to get a good start.
Okay, that's a solid support system. And speaking of support and real-world customer communication, what is something important to consider when raising a support ticket?
So when a customer actually submits a request is really in deep into the problem. So, and what happens is when someone is really in that problem is maybe missing, I would say, the context. This is a support thing in general. I've been working in other companies before where I was also taking of support, and this is happening also where people are just submitting a request, but they're skipping a bit the context around. And sometimes the context is really important to understand from where the issue comes from. But okay, this is just happening, and we try also, of course, our best to get information and to help.
I think that's a very good advice to us all, to always describe exactly what is the issue and give some background information, because we work in a highly technical field with complex processes going on. Taking a look ahead now, technology is evolving rapidly. Cloud, AI, edge computing are buzzwords in our daily work and lives. What do you see as main challenges for embedded operating systems like PikeOS in the next 5 years?
For me, it's something like when you have an embedded operating system and customers sometimes are using a system which is even not connected to anything else, not connected to the outside world, and they have certification on top. As soon as you give the possibility to your hardware to connect to the outside world, cloud or whatever, or to be linked to an IE, which will basically look for information and feed any kind of software that might be running in a partition in PikeOS. I believe this would bring some more security aspects because you're opening a gate actually to the outside world. If you compare with the system which is running on a specific hardware, I don't know, it could be something, a military thing or a device or anything like that, which needs to be really safe. So some systems like that are really close, and I see the challenge of having IE connected to those or connecting to clouds that brings more need to or more robustity to run an embedded operating system and taking care of those challenges at the same time. So that's quite challenging because if you usually see someone who would like to use something like that, embedded operating system is looking for safety. So of course, opening a door, it's always a risk. I believe this is a challenge, not only for us, but also for the customers. They need to take care, of course, of those aspects. But from the operating system side, we need to deliver something which allows them to make their operating system safe, even when this operating system has a capability or some software or applications are actually using some external information or updating some data somewhere in the cloud. As soon as we will have, I would say, customer with those requirements, i.e. or accessing data in the cloud and updating them in the cloud, and I guess challenge or discussions will take place, and we might need, of course, to adapt if needed. to the requirements. So it's really, I would say, related to the requirements. So when someone comes with some requirements, we adapt. That's what we have been doing until now. So if there's new requirements, bringing some new solutions, PikeOS is a product which can be adaptable based on the requirements of a customer.
Thank you very much for these insights. Coming to an end now, and since working in the support requires a lot of, let's say, power, here the most important question of all: coffee or tea?
Coffee or tea? Well, I would say both. Then you stay awake all day long.
And with milk?
On the tea, yes. Coffee will be black.
Love it. Balanced and efficient, just like PikeOS. So now it's time to wrap up. Thanks a lot for being with us today and giving us more insights into our support and products, Daniel.
Thank you, Benjamin, for taking the time also to let me answer some questions. I hope it will help our customer to understand a bit our support, also our training works. And yeah, thank you very much, everyone. And we will probably keep in touch either in support or training.
Thank you to our listeners for joining us in this episode of the Cisco TechCast. If you have questions or want to learn more, feel free to reach out, because, as you learned, your answer might only be one ticket or training away. So stay connected, stay secure, and until next time.